Hi, and welcome to Michigan Matters. Hope you're enjoying the holiday weekend. Michigan's defense industry got a big boost a few weeks ago when President Trump announced Selfridge would be getting new fighter jets to replace aging models soon to be retired. So what's next for the industry? I caught up with 3 leaders at the forefront earlier this week to hear from them. Then the roundtable's here to discuss a busy time with tariffs, elections, the Mackinac Policy Conference, and lots more coming up. It's a fast-paced show, so grab some coffee or tea and join us as we dive in.
From CBS Detroit, this is Michigan Matters with Carol Kane. Michigan Matters is brought to you in part by PNC Bank.
And we're so pleased to welcome Jennifer Tisdale, who's the board member of the National Defense Industry Association, or NDIH, Valdi Garcia, who's president of NDIH, Michigan's chapter, and Mark Ignish, who is the director of the Michigan Office of Defense and Aerospace Innovation, or ODAI. Boy, lots of abbreviations there, folks. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Good morning.
So there's so much to talk about with the defense industry and so much going on here in Michigan. And Valde, let me start with you. The Michigan chapter of the organization was founded in 1944, I think it is. So what is the organization's mission and what is it doing here in Michigan?
Well, first of all, we're a group of defense companies that focus on supporting the Department of Defense. And our job as NDIA Michigan is to connect those defense companies with Department of Defense. In Michigan, it's primarily the Army, but we also support all the other branches of the military as well. Air Force, Space Force, Marines, and Coast Guard as well. And our job is to connect them.
And in fact, you and I have talked, God, it's been, do I dare say this, 20 years when you were state senator about the defense industry and everything going on in Michigan back then. How do you think the state is doing?
Well, we're doing better, but we can always do more, is my opinion, because the defense industry provides a great opportunity for Michigan, not only economically, but it's our effort and contribution to our national security.
Yeah, and Jennifer, the NDIH, how many members are involved in the Michigan chapter, and how critical is the defense/aerospace/advanced manufacturing? How important is this to our region?
I mean, there isn't anything more important, in my opinion, because it is connected to many of our other industries. So we have manufacturers that provide components to defense as well as aerospace and automotive. And so the membership is really in the thousands, I believe, if that's an accurate statistic. I don't have the exact number, but we are convening the industries from across multiple sectors to really feed into the state's economy.
And Mark, you're part of MED, Michigan Economic Development Corporation, which is the quasi-public-private, quasi-economic development arm to build businesses, grow businesses here, and other things, including tourism. So how big is the defense industry in Michigan?
So it's actually the 3rd largest industry in the state. It's over 4,000 companies in the defense supply chain, over 1,000 within aerospace, 166,000 plus jobs, which equates to approximately $30 billion in annual economic impacts across the state. It's large.
And you're promoting this on behalf of the state. What is Michigan's calling card versus, say, other states that are also, they say they're in the defense industry in a big way? How does Michigan stack up, and what is our calling card?
So I would say, we swing a lot heavier than our weight class in terms of what we can do, and that's because we have a very diverse and agile industry here. By example, DoD, there's needs across the board. One of those is in submarines and manufacturing. They reach out to Michigan. Why is that? It's because our manufacturing base can respond and is responding. Yeah. So I think our calling card is, we are, we do land systems and automotive. We do that. We're going to keep doing that. But we can do more, to Valde's point. And, when there's a need, Michigan can respond and does respond. And
Valde, you have been at this, as I mentioned, a long time ago. It's hard to believe it's been that long since you and I first were on Michigan Matters talking about this same thing. But you're in a different position now. You also, by the way, you were in the Army. You were a lieutenant.
I retired as a colonel after 30 years in the military, in the Army, primarily. Active duty, the reserves, and the Guard, the Michigan Guard.
Thank you very much for your service. How does ODAI, how does it serve? There's a mosaic of these organizations that are kind of working together on this. How does it fit in to help further the industry? What specifically are you folks doing?
So ODAI helps to protect the the defense industry that we have in Michigan, but also to grow it, because there's great opportunities in the defense industry. Like Jennifer talked about manufacturing, we also have engineering, a lot of brain power here, and the skilled workforce. So we bring a lot to the table. And again, for Michigan's economy, we're talking about very high-paying jobs, and that contribute to the national security.
So, Mark, I'm going to imagine that you must have been doing the happy dance when the President Trump announced that the new F-15EX fighter jet would be coming to Selfridge. How big a boom, literally and figuratively, will that be for our region? And are you optimistic that that will actually happen, that they will come to Selfridge, the work?
So yes, optimistic, and it's a very big deal. And why is that? So Selfridge Air National Guard Base in itself is a key national asset, and that's because it can house aircraft of really any size. B-52 bombers, which were the largest, and if you lose these assets, you don't get them back. And we're in a political environment now, a global political environment, where we need to be bolstering these assets and not losing them. And so with this fighter mission, that's going to increase base sustainability and resiliency for decades with that mission.
So does having these jets coming here, does that help our luster as a defense sector?
Yes.
You want to field that quickly?
Well, I think the fact that Michigan was chosen to have these advanced fighters, now they're fifth-generation fighters, but they're still very capable. And like Mark said, they bring a lot of sustainability to the future of Michigan.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break and continue the conversation and talk more about defense, aerospace, advanced manufacturing. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Michigan Matters. We're talking with Jennifer Tisdale, Valdi Garcia, and Mark Ignish about an incredible industry that is growing in Michigan, the defense industry. And Jennifer, I know cybersecurity is one of the things that this is your expertise here. Yeah. And this kind of overlays into all of these things we're talking about. How do you see that as an opportunity for the region?
Well, I absolutely believe that Michigan needs to be home to cyber physical system security, and all that means is for embedded platforms, transportation devices, and different modalities of mobility. Cyber has to be a part of that with software-driven vehicles, in the sky, on the ground, or in the sea. Cyber has to be a part of that. And so Michigan is well positioned with all of our engineering talent here locally, both on mechanical, electrical, and computer science engineering, to really own that space. And so we're here to preach loud and proud about all the capabilities that live here in Michigan.
The other thing that seems to be taking place, which has changed through the years, thankfully, is people are working together. I'm talking about legislators. I'm talking about business, academia, and trying to help buttress our region in this. And Mark, since you're with MEDC and that's part of the official charge of that department, how do you see what's taking place here?
I think we are at a convergence of all interests you just mentioned, unlike a time at least that I can recall. At state level, our partnership level, academia, folks right now more than ever are wanting to come around this industry and figure out how to contribute and how to
be
do
part
more.
of it. It's a huge industry here.
Yes.
So how do companies and how do we create opportunities for small businesses? Maybe somebody's watching and thinking, maybe there's something there for me. And Valdi, I know you've been involved with this. So what's your advice to somebody who's watching who may want to get involved and find out where these opportunities are?
So NDIA Michigan connects these companies with government, and we do so through a number of different events. One we just held, the Michigan Defense Expo. We're going to have another one in August. It's called GBSETS. It's basically the Ground Vehicle Research Symposium. And we have nearly 2,500 people come, a lot of companies. The government is there, and they interact and talk about the needs of the military and how defense companies can support them.
Let's talk about the billion-dollar issue before our state and most states, and that is the issue of talent, having sufficient talent that's prepared for these sorts of things. And how do you see our region at the moment of preparing young folks, maybe middle-aged folks who are transitioning into these new jobs? How do you see what's taking place here now?
I think we are in a place where, as we work with traditional universities and even our local community colleges, these institutions are actually wanting to tailor curriculum around these opportunities. We are, I think, the #1 state for engineering talent, bar none. Yeah. Skilled trades, we are ramping back up, and some of these opportunities and projects, we work with these institutions and these community colleges to, again, develop curriculum specifically for this industry and these needs. So you look at even the maritime piece and Navy, it's a different type of manufacturing. So as we speak, we have what's called the M3 initiative, Michigan Manufacturing Initiative, Michigan Maritime Manufacturing Initiative, that's designed to help upskill this talent for this type of manufacturing.
And what about the aerospace industry again? That's kind of part of the conversation you're having here. How is that looking? How big is that to Michigan, that component?
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to take a slightly different spin and really focus more on the technology applications for aero and automotive and defense manufacturing. The technological change happens much quicker oftentimes than academia can keep up. So there is a call to action to traditional universities and colleges to find a new and more innovative way to get talent into the workforce much more quickly. The accreditation process can be cumbersome and lengthy, and so by the time they get curricula developed, the technology has already changed and could be pretty antiquated by the time they get into the workforce. And so looking to universities and working with them to develop certification programs that are applicable to defense and aero, auto is critical at this time. And we have seen some real emergence of creative thinkers in the university space, and great thing for NDIA to be the convener of all the stakeholders along with MEDC and OADI. It has been great. It's been wonderful and refreshing to see everyone come together.
Yeah, and Valda, you've been at this a long time too. And as you look at this issue of talent for all these industries we're talking about here, and the universities working together, there's been a disconnect oftentimes with what's going on, with what business needs, what academia is doing, and when you have technology changing at rapid light fire. I mean, it's hard to keep up with it. What do you see happening to try to help bridge that right now?
Well, we're reaching out, like Jennifer said, to universities. We have several universities who participate in the event that I talked about earlier, GB sets, and we want students to understand there are great opportunities in the defense industry. You can serve your country not necessarily in uniform like I did and others did, but you can do it by using your brain power to serve and work on really cool pieces of equipment.
Yeah. And Mark, you get the last word here. So you mentioned that this whole industry is the third largest in the state. I don't think most people in the state even know that. Why do you think that is?
Well, the defense industry, it's not one that you're going to see necessarily on all the billboards because it's not as consumer facing. We're not buying, what DOD is typically buying, at least the big stuff. So I think folks just don't realize right in our own backyard, this is what's being worked on, and this is a primary mission for all three of us is awareness building.
Right. Yes. And the website for your event coming up in August, if someone's interested?
Go to ndia-mich.org, ndia-mich.org.
And we'll put that on our website too with the story here. Thank you folks so much for being here. Appreciate it. Great stuff to hear about this interesting and seeing how much it's changed and evolved. I'm sure we'll have more to speak about in the months ahead, but again, appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
And keep it right here. We'll be back with the Michigan Matters Roundtable after this. And welcome back. We're now joined by the Roundtable as we say hello to Glenn Stevens, the Executive Director of Mich Auto, which is part of the Detroit Regional Chamber. In the middle, as he likes to be, is Mark Hackel, the Macomb County Executive, and Eric Larson, President and CEO of Downtown Detroit Partnership. Morning, gentlemen. How is everybody?
Great. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Well, there's got tons of stuff to talk about here, starting with the Mackinac Conference. And Mark, you are notorious for putting up unusual billboards on the way up and down 75. For those of us that drive up and down to the conference, we're showing some of the billboards here. What's your spin this year?
Well, that was all a once upon a time. When I first started the billboard thing, it was just to get a little bit of attention because I had Brooks and you had Bob Ficano at the time and Mayor Bing. It was like, okay, everything was talking about Wayne, Oakland, as well as Detroit. So we had to do something to kind of get some conversation going. And that did. So this year we had, as we every year, kind of put something out there to kind of get conversation. Selfridge is obviously
and I noticed that picture of you with Candace kind of looks like, I don't know, two candidates together maybe,
might get
governor,
a few of those,
lieutenant governor, I don't know.
Might get a few of those gubernatorial candidates that are thinking about running a little bit nervous, but that wasn't the intent. Just let people know that bipartisan, we support what's going on with defense. Put the politics
And I hear you
aside.
get a little competition from Mike Duggan, who has a billboard coming up as well.
I heard that he's got one on the way. I think this is more political, but
Yeah. And Glenn, since you are part of the chamber, and I know that tons of work goes into putting that event on, what do you think is going to be the hot issue up there?
Well, I think there's a lot of them, but I think this is an opportunity where national issues which impact Michigan are going to be discussed with national correspondents, with speakers for Michigan leaders, and we're talking about trade, we're talking about jobs, education, competitiveness, and there's a lot at stake here.
Yeah. Well, and Eric, you run the Downtown Detroit Partnership. Obviously, Detroit's your thing here. In bygone years, Detroit was always like the problem city, and everybody was lamenting what's going on with Detroit. Now things have turned around. Their population's up the last couple years here, and it's sort of like Detroit, they'll be getting attention. It'll be different kind of attention, won't it?
Yeah, no, it will be different kind of attention. It's kind of interesting to see how this has shifted. Now the mayor is having to run billboards to make sure people are remembering Detroit versus Macomb. But no, I mean I think Mackinac is going to be very interesting because not just the things that Glenn and Mark have talked about, but also a lot of conversation with the foundations. There is obviously a lot of concern about especially private foundations and taxation against private foundations. There'll also be obviously a number of people talking about the mayoral election and
oh my gosh,
what are the qualities that we need to continue to lead the city and continue the momentum. And it's not just the mayor, it's also the council.
Yeah.
So all that will be part of the conversation.
Well, and those are just the elections going on this year. That didn't get to the fact that in 2026 we got a governor's race and U.S. Senate wide open, a bunch of other races here. But when it comes to the mayor, Mike Duggan, you could say, has been supporting the region. Mark, since you're the person who is one of the county executives here, what is the number one trait, if you will, of whoever replaces him are you looking for? What's the most important, do you think?
Again, Mike has one of those. He's the guy with that type of trait. In other words, a person who wants to get down, supportive of business, wants to figure out how do we solve problems as opposed to worried about what the political answer is going to be. So, I think he's been able to prove that. I mean, being a mayor, you're kind of an independent to begin with. I know he leans towards the Democratic side, has during election cycles, but I think being the governor, I don't know that it would be difficult for him to switch over and say, I'm in the middle, let's solve problems.
Are you supporting any of the 9 candidates?
Not at this time, no.
Are you going to?
Nah, we'll see. Again, it's still to be determined.
Eric?
Yeah, I mean, I think the qualities are a number of the qualities that obviously our current mayor has exhibited for the last 12 years, but I also think that it's going to be really important for whoever the candidate is to recognize where their deficiencies are and be able to lean into the way.
Are you supporting anybody?
Not yet.
I guess Smile says you're going to at some point here. And Glenn, the chamber is going to have the candidates forum up there with the mayoral candidates here. I know there was some concern that there wasn't going to be. Now there is. How much pressure did you get to put that on?
Well, I think it came together. Our government affairs team and Sandy and everybody communicated that, look, this is an opportunity. You have all of the leaders there across the entire state. You have media there. This is what the policy conference is all about, and so we're providing that forum.
Yeah. One other thing here, we're going to take a quick break, but Glenn, let me ask you this. In bygone years, last few years, the conversation about population, growing Michigan's population, has been like front and center. 2 years in a nutshell, how do you think we're doing?
We're making progress, and I think that's why the elections next year and who the governor is so transformational, because we need education, economic development, and strong communities / infrastructure. That's why communities grow. That's why people move and live in places, and that's what's going to drive our growth.
Do you think we're doing enough in those areas right now?
I think we have we've taken a lot of steps, but we need to accelerate. Michigan's at a real competitive place, and we're seeing that now with a lot of issues, but it's all about whether people and technology and innovation wants to happen in places, and that's up to us to make that happen.
You agree with that?
Yeah, it's about our pride, not the divide.
How was your population in the
We're
last
too worried about
census?
this division.
In your last census, how was Macomb's?
We've always seen an increase in Macomb County, and again, I think a lot of that is because of what we're seeing coming from, not regional migration, but we're seeing people that are coming from across the globe to Macomb County. 1 in 9 people living in Macomb County now are foreign-born.
Hence, make Macomb your home.
Yeah, that's getting around.
There
It's
we
getting
go.
around.
Well, and Detroit is right there. I mean, Detroit obviously announced continued population growth. Downtown Detroit has 28% population growth in the last 10 years. So a lot of it is exactly what Glenn is saying, and that is we need to continue to find the ways that we're attracting and retaining that talent. Yeah. And a big part of it is us being able to transition from what is a manufacturer, not losing that DNA, but leaning into the knowledge economy, because we have a huge opportunity.
We're going to take a quick break here, continue the conversation, talk about manufacturing, tariffs, and who knows what else. Come back and join us. Welcome back. We're talking with Glenn Stevens, Mark Hackel, and Eric Larson about politics, Mackinac, a bunch of other things here. And Mark, earlier in the show, we heard from 3 people involved with the defense industry here, defense, aerospace, advanced manufacturing, opportunities here. We talked specifically, too, about with all the manufacturing and all that sort of stuff here. How do you see things like Selfridge and the momentum that we're getting with all of this here?
Yeah, those 3 they're the subject matter experts, and they understand it. We are tied in directly with them. But the reality is, when we talk about manufacturing, as Eric had mentioned earlier, we need to continue to double down on that. I mean, if you think 10 years ago, we were concerned about manufacturing. But manufacturing isn't just the automotive industry. Glenn, he's well versed in that. Defense is a huge part of what Macomb County has to offer. We were putting together, back even when Snyder was in office, the protect and grow strategy, and we have seen the benefits from that. So no longer are we protecting the assets that we currently have in Michigan. There's been an incredible amount of growth in the defense industry. And so with that, there are many different areas of defense right now that we're trying to figure out how do we look at, whether it's hypersonics, trying to find out, whether it's cybersecurity issues that are happening, even this missile defense dome that they're talking about, the Golden Dome. There's many opportunities for us to really grow defense in and around the entire state of Michigan, and Macomb County tends to be the epicenter of that right now.
And Eric, in Detroit, the aerospace, the aerial drones, all that sort of seems to be, that's a concentration around Detroit, too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot what Mark's saying. We're leaning into innovation, and innovation can be applied in a number of different ways, especially in defense. And so Michigan Central is a great example where they have actually, with MDOT, created an aerial aviation region. So there is a free airspace for drone testing and drone development. And that's happening, obviously, at City Airport with other companies. And so a lot of this is really focused on how can we make sure that the technology and the innovation that is coming out of Michigan is applying cross-industry sectors.
Well, this kind of gets into the innovation hubs. Glenn, I know last time you were on, we talked a little bit about this with the innovation hubs that are coming up in Detroit, Ann Arbor, other areas, and bringing that in. It's kind of buttressing that, isn't it?
It is. I mean, that's where the growth is going to happen in our economy. We already lead in R&D. The patent office put an office in Detroit because there's so much here. But we're going to transform the economy. It's going to be on new technologies, and we're going to lean into the ones we have, and that's auto, advanced engineering, manufacturing, and defense and things like that.
How much are things like the tariffs, talk about tariffs, going to be impacting some of the momentum and things that we're doing here?
Well, we are finding it very difficult right now, and we knew it was going to be an outsized impact. It's a difficult situation right now. Costs are going up.
Yep.
Price of vehicles could be going up. It's impacting jobs. However, don't waste a good crisis. There is onshoring that's going to happen. We knew that too. So we're collectively, I was on 2 calls this morning to talk about how do we seize the opportunity to get more manufacturing in Michigan at the same time.
Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah, there's no question about it. That's why we're looking at repurposing certain facilities that are there or having them reinvest in those facilities. I mean, I look at the Ford engine plant up in Romeo. I mean, it's been sitting there for a while, idled, and, we're wondering what Ford plans on doing with it. But based on what's happening right now at the presidential level, this may force, some opportunities at that facility. So, again, it opens up opportunities, as Glenn had mentioned.
And what are you seeing in Detroit?
I think the other thing that, you just can't underestimate the importance of this binational community that we live in as well. The conversations that are now taking place with Canada and Windsor, Essex, and Detroit are very important in terms of strategy long-term. So we've got these long-term relationships that have produced tremendous opportunities not only in manufacturing but also in innovation. And this is the opportunity, to Glenn's point, to double down on that. This is not an opportunity to step back. It's actually an opportunity to lean in, be more creative, and actually be incentivized by the ecosystem that exists here.
The other topic that we know is going to be red hot on the island is, which every time it is, talking about talent needs, talent gap, bringing things together here. Are we doing a better job after matching what's needed and what people are being trained for?
I think we are doing a better job, but that's what's going to drive innovation. That's what's going to drive growth. I mean, people want strong communities. They want opportunity, and Michigan has a lot to offer.
And I know there's so much more to say about it, but you know what? We're out of time here, so I want to thank you guys for being here. Appreciate it. Thanks you at home for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your day and the holiday, and we'll see you next Sunday for a little bit more Michigan Matters.
Matters.
Have a good one.